Hi, folks. Welcome to Let's Just Go. This is Kevin and Casey's Modern Missionary Podcast, where we talk theology and ministry, family, just the whole spirit of going for it in life. And right now, we're on the third part of Casey's Leukemia Journey.
And today's podcast is titled Rainbow Level Winning.
Rainbow Levels.
And this is especially, I think, good for starting the new year. Lots of goals that people are setting.
To win?
The level
goals
to win. Yep, you can do it. You can win at those things.
I don't think people usually think of rainbows as winning.
Oh.
It's kind of a soft, beautiful thing.
I don't know. Maybe that's what I used to think about them too, but I have a different thought about them.
You know, like fairy tale unicorns and rainbows.
Like
hopping around on clouds.
Fairy tale-ish.
Radiation. Chernobyl. Rainbow.
Ooh.
Chernobyl. Propane rainbows.
Oh, well, I don't know if I have that view
Rainbows,
of them.
propane, yes.
To me...
It's Chernobyl, which is awesome. I mean, bad, but...
It's got awesome power.
Rainbows radioactivity is awesome.
Okay, so rainbows have radioactivity.
The potency.
Yeah.
The vibrancy.
And also how it can affect everything around it.
And it moves just when you're about to put your finger on it.
That's true.
It escapes
Elusive.
You.
Well,
and it's actually a circle. It's like up on top, and they're like, no, it's actually a circle. I'm like, it is not a circle. No, it's a circle.
I got to go to the island of Molokai and tour Father Damien, the leper colony and all that. But while we were flying there, I actually saw a circle rainbow. We were flying above the clouds and it was, like drizzly. And the sun popped out and you looked out the window and there was a rainbow circle.
How did you see the bottom
half? It was, if I remember right, it was like flat.
And from your vantage point, it was a perfect circle.
Yeah, it was
wasn't
a circle.
Like ellipsed or anything.
It may have been tilted a little bit. I wasn't really.
But there's something about it.
It didn't change shape or anything.
Secrets of rainbows.
Yeah, the secrets of rainbows. Kermit the Frog was right.
And what's on the other side?
Yep.
Do we have any pre-podcast announcements or anything?
I don't know, except that it's, this is our first podcast of the new year.
Still in season 2.
I know, still in season 2. You do a really good job editing. We started.
I take out the fights.
You take out the fights. We started posting on YouTube, like doing YouTube videos. That's something new, actually.
I would like to propose that we have a couple of lineup podcasts following this and then close out season 2. And my thought is this coming Monday is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day.
Yeah. Ooh.
And how about we can say that our next podcast is a discussion on chapter 1 of our reflections of Dr. King's Strength to Love book.
Okay. I like that. So we'll transition from doing this into doing kind of a 2-week book overview.
A 2 or 3 week, just Kevin and Casey's reflections on this book. By mentioning it right now, that could be an encouragement. If someone is listening to this, well, you are listening to this, then what do you think about going on Amazon and getting this book, Strength to Love, and reading chapter 1 before we do our next podcast? That might be fun. We might even do chapter 1 and chapter 2 next time. These are short chapters. What?
Well, I already know. We should.
What?
Which chapter we should do?
Which one?
Loving your enemies.
Loving your enemies?
That chapter is super powerful.
Okay. How about we do actually chapter 1 and chapter 5?
Okay.
We'll discuss our thoughts on it.
Okay.
And then also how we've used this book in the past a little bit. Why MLK?
Yeah. If you guys are readers and at the beginning of a year, you decide the books that you want to read or you have a number of books you want to read, I would highly recommend putting this into your book reading list because this book, Strength to Love, is really, really good. It's very powerful.
It's a good introduction to MLK. If you haven't read any of his stuff, these are short sermons, chapter each. And then after that, we'll pick another 2 chapters. And then if we do a third one, there's a chapter in here that discusses kind of his journey philosophically and politically, you know, kind of a pendulum. He went here and then here and then here as he investigated God's word. So that could be next episode, the next episode, maybe a third one. We might just do 2 on it.
Yeah.
And then what if the last one of the season, we did like a Kevin and Casey's resume? Almost like looking back, if there are people who have started on a podcast, but they don't want to go back to our very beginning, and they're just kind of entering in, and they're like, what are some, you know, who are these guys?
Yeah.
And where are we at?
Who even are these people? Well, then, let's get into it.
What is this about? It's Rainbow Level Winning, part 3 of Casey's Leukemia Journey, the whole sense of it.
We call it Rainbow Level Winning because it's kind of an interesting added component into the leukemia journey, but rainbows became a theme, and not just a theme of, you know, people sending me rainbows, you know, from everywhere, all over the world. You know, I'd get pictures of rainbows, but also they became like, I want to say, a mascot or a symbol of what was happening in real life. And it was an encouragement to me. Active.
It was God's Batman signal in the sky.
It was like God's, yes, I love that. His Batman signal in the sky.
Every day.
Every day, you know, I had that room that had 2 sides windows. Like, I don't know who gets that lucky in a hospital. And in Hawaii, so I got to look out, you know, over Waikiki, Pearl City, towards the ocean, and I could see the sunsets at night, and I could see there were rainbows all the time. And especially I felt like when I really needed encouragement, I just look out the window and there would be a rainbow.
Chernobyl rainbows.
Yeah. So
bright colors. Burning.
I mean, it wasn't just like, oh, there's a rainbow. It was like, wait a minute. There's another rainbow, you know, kind of like, what is going on here kind of a thing. Yeah.
Of rainbows.
Yeah. So that was
which, cool. If you notice, is, to reiterate, our new logo has rainbow colors in it. Let's just go.
And I also think that it was kind of like a banner to say, keep going.
It was a banner. Keep going. Like a war banner.
It was like, made me think a lot about God's promises.
The victory part.
Yes. Made me think about, you know, that a rainbow in the Bible was given to Noah is like, this is a promise. It's a fresh start. It's something of beauty in the thing that you just went through that was like really dark and scary.
I think that's the sense that we have for this episode, is that there's a part of God relation that is winning in his victory and his life and his resurrection. And to put that in front of you is maybe too rare of a thing. It should be like that Batman signal, Chernobyl color, rainbows, promises of God to set before you. And there's something that God does to say, we're allowed to do that. And he wants us. That's the life he has called us. It's God talking to this cave where Lazarus is dead, and his command to Lazarus is not to have faith in him, not to confess his sins. It's Lazarus, come forth. You know, Lazarus, live. We've talked about how this rainbow, you know, really like the one in Noah's Ark, after God floods the earth because of all the wickedness. But he's like, we're going to go with life, more life than what we went with before this time. And he sets this rainbow in the sky, and it's a bow. It looks like it starts on the earth, and then it bends up into the heaven, and it is immersed there, and then it bends back down onto the earth again. And so there's an other side of the rainbow, having been immersed in where heaven is. For us in this story, there was a a capability that God kept on putting in front of us, and that he taught us to not just be sad and have courage about what was tough going on and to accept our lot, but we were awakened to a capability.
So I talked last time about how God was dealing with me with a lot of fear. You know, he gave me those hallucinations or visions, and I felt like the rainbow was part of him, like talking to me, letting me know that he had me. But there was a particular few verses in Romans that I was reading one day. God spoke to me that, you know, you should have complete trust in what I'm doing for you. The verse is Romans 5, verses 1 through 5. And it says this: "Therefore, since we have been justified by faith, we have peace with God through our Lord Jesus Christ. Through him we have also obtained access by faith into this grace in which we stand, and we rejoice in the hope of the glory of God. More than that, we rejoice in our suffering, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope, and that hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts through the Holy Spirit who has been given to us." The thing that I was searching for was peace, and what this verse told me is that I had it. I had peace because I had Christ. Not only did I have peace, but I had access to God. Like, I was no longer at war with God. God and I were on the same side. Me being justified put me on the side of God, where we were not against each other, but we were on the same side. And because we were on the same side, I could trust that everything that he gave me was going to grow me towards him. And my character, my endurance, my faith. And that like blew my mind, because I realized that what I could do was I could actually trust the process. And the one thing that I think is so beautiful about this is because it says, "And hope does not put us to shame, because God's love has been poured into our hearts." And I think that what I really realize is, you know, sometimes you don't want to ask for something because you're not really sure if it's going to happen. And I felt like that it gave me permission and confidence to ask God to heal me, and I wasn't going to be put to shame, and neither was he. Those verses just really solidified where I was in relationship to God, that he loved me, that we were at peace with each other, so I could trust basically what he was doing.
You know, you said that you could trust the process. And I think a lot of people go through a trial and they'll even look at this verse and there's a chain reaction. The trial to turning into perseverance, proven character. There's a chain reaction, and its goal is to get you to peace with God. And this is not how you were seeing this. This was like, no, that part is already done. The peace of God already exists, and he is on your side. So this process is for something else. It is not to gain peace with God. It is what happens when you have entered into that peace of God and you have it. The enmity is gone.
It's gone.
And now, what is the program that we have before us?
The program is that you have permission to ask God for anything. And I think that that was one of the things that I had really been wrestling with, was like, so I want to pray for God to heal me, or people would pray for me and they'd be like, if it was God's will. And I wanted to be like, no, damn it. God is going to heal me. I am asking, I want to be healed. And I remember there were times when I would be in my hospital room and I'd be like, I want to live. And I would just yell it out loud. And I felt like those verses and what God was doing, he gave me permission. I was allowed to do that. I was allowed to tell him that I wanted to live. And I knew he was listening to me.
Because you already entered into his will.
Yeah.
It's like, this is the building now.
Yeah.
And a lot of time, I think that's what people are stuck on. We need to not ask for that which we shouldn't ask for. We've got to align ourselves and be like, okay, when are you going to hear what he wants? And then you be reconciled with him.
Yeah.
Now can we get to work?
Right.
Or do you want to keep on doing it? Do you want to just keep on doing it?
Right. The justification is the doorway. You are now on the side of God where you are on his side. A lot of times, even now, I think that was such a great lesson for me, because even now, sometimes you're like, well, I really want to ask for this, or I want this to happen, and this is the way I would like it to happen, and you hear the voices inside that say, what if that's not God's will? Or why are you impatient? When God closes a door, maybe he opens a window. And I mean, all of that is just really noise, because you have permission to ask God for the things that you desire.
You've come to bust down the doors. To relate it to what we're talking about, there's a number of moments and memories, victory laps, or standing strong, making the best out of something that stood out, that was inspiring to us, but also to others.
Yeah.
And then we were able to share that story. And I think we should go through, some of those.
Yeah, I think so too. I think one of the ones that we didn't really talk about last time was the whole situation with Delilah.
Right. She was not even 1 year old when this all started. So in 2015, this larger and larger percentage of the life she had lived on the earth was away from her mom.
Yeah.
And she had in every way associated herself and her life with you up until that point. And then you were removed.
Well, yeah, I was removed from it. And because she was so young and I was immunocompromised, she wasn't allowed into the hospital room as much as the other people were. I feel like there was a long stretch of time where I did not see her. And it was interesting because, when she would come in, she would just stare at me. And I was just a little distraught by that, because it was almost like she didn't want to acknowledge that I was there, or she didn't want to pay attention to me. And it was the same way then after that long stint in the hospital. When I went home, she would stare at me, she'd look at me from across the room, and I just decided that I was not going to be in her face, that she was going to have to work it out. Like, I actually felt like I could see her trying to work things out in her brain. And I was not going to force her to do anything. I was going to let her come to that conclusion.
I mean, eventually she knew as much time that she had catch up with you, that was going to be taken away again, because that was starting to happen.
Right.
And then when she was reacquainted, then that was short-lived and it was taken away. And
yeah, I mean, other people had kind of come in and started and mommed her. And so that really is like, well, what is my purpose with her? So I came home from that long stint of being in the hospital. The induction chemotherapy was like almost 5 weeks. And I was home for a week, and then I got sick and I had to go back into the hospital. When I came back home, then I walked in the door, and she was being held. And, everyone was gathered around to greet me as I came in the door. And as I came in the door, she stared at me and she looked at me. And then all of a sudden, she leaned towards me. And I was like, oh. So I took her in my arms and I gave her a kiss. And she just stared at me. And Rachel took a picture of her reaching out in that moment. Her finger, I have a mole on the left side of my face, And she was reaching out and she was touching that. And I feel like that was a recognition. It was something she remembered about me. It's like it brought her out of her skepticism and into, okay, we will have a relationship now.
My most prized possession is this, this painting.
Yeah. Well, after it was taken, a picture was taken of it, I posted it, and I had another friend who was an artist, and she ended up painting that picture. All the emotion that is encapsulated in that picture is just, even now when I stare at it, it helps. I remember, I like get emotional.
What strikes me about that, though, is that you approach that with a clean conscience. And you just had you had a clean conscience, a grace,
Yep.
Towards yourself that you experienced about not being there for her. And ironically, I think that clean conscience that you had is what unlocked your ability to connect with her in a way that couldn't be done with an unclean conscience.
With guilt in the way.
With guilt. Yeah. And what I mean is what I saw, Delilah was still kind of almost punishing you.
Yeah, I thought so.
By not looking at you sometimes. And, like, why would you leave me and keep leaving me and hand me off to a new set, of folks? And instead of you making up the difference for that, you decided to ignore her back. You felt you had the clarity to know that you weren't making up anything. You were engaged equally with this girl that you owed nothing to negotiate your relationship. As she ignores you, then you ignore her. You played the same game.
Yeah.
An unclean conscience wouldn't do that. A winning conscience would do that. And it unlocked something in her. And she was like, that's my mom.
Yeah.
And then I saw a relationship grow between the two of you, a relationship in 4D. She learned you for the first time twice. Yeah. When she was born. It was like a rebirth. You guys got 2 births of relationship to one another. And that's very rare. Most everybody has just one birth of their relationship with somebody.
So it wasn't like I felt like she was lacking anything, like you said. I was going to come toe to toe. I was going to meet her toe to toe to let her figure it out. And it was actually very interesting to see her turn around. And
somehow the story of you and having a large family, then Delilah, became this growing story. One thing that happened was Robbie was recording an album, and he wrote a song called Casey's Song. And it was about, I listened to it this morning.
It's about me being a warrior.
And raising an army at the end of a rainbow.
Yeah.
And then towards the end of the song, it talks to Delilah. It's actually got baby crying in the background. It says, Delilah, be proud of your mama.
Yeah. Don't be scared.
Don't be
Delilah.
Scared. There's a part of the chorus that says, because Casey doesn't know how to die. And I think some of this story, the Polymomy Hospital and the staff picked up on. They wanted to put that story in a bottle and sell it, like literally fundraise on what they were seeing with your battle and the relationships around you, and use it to fundraise for cancer, for their new cancer board.
Yeah. I think that they were inspired. I had so many conversations. There are probably some I don't even remember with the nurses, my chemotherapy nurses, the different specialists that would come in, the hospitalists. I mean, all I had was time. So I just had so many good conversations with all of the people who were caring for me. They genuinely were inspired by not just me, but by our family and the love. They commented all the time on how much we loved each other. I think that it was just really touching to them. And the head nurse on the floor, her name was Danny. I remember her approaching me and asking if I would be interested in sharing, a little bit about our journey, because they were opening up like a new cancer wing. I said, yes, I would do that, because I felt like I owed it to them because of how great they cared for me. And Mavis also, they interviewed her too, and she was one of my chemo nurses, and I loved her. Her and I developed a good friendship, and her and I were both interviewed for the opening of their new cancer ward. They were there to experience my most low moments. When you have people who are caring for you, and they rotate and everything, but a lot of the same people, they see you when you're down, and they saw us when you shaved my head, and the tears and the emotion that was in that, because you did that in the hospital. We celebrated our 20th anniversary.
That's how we celebrated it.
Yep, that's how we celebrated it. And, they got a cake for us because you came, and I think you brought steak. You brought me a meal into the room. And, we spent that evening together, just the two of us, but they had a cake made and shared that with us. And also, we had always talked about going to Tahiti. And for
you always asked me to take you to Tahiti for your 20th year anniversary.
Yeah. And so you ended up giving me this beautiful strand of Tahitian pearls. They're just so beautiful. And but that that was something that they observed and witnessed. And I just think they got a glimpse into a lot of the moments that other people didn't see. I mean, I had to be bathed twice a day, in the morning and in the middle of the night. And so they would be the ones that did that when I fell, when I had my tests to do, taking all of that stuff.
Yeah, there was the heart of life for one, but it was also paired. It was multiplied by the openness. But I mean, I think of on the 20th anniversary, I'm supposed to take Casey to Tahiti. I wouldn't give up. I mean, everybody's been to Tahiti. Okay, they haven't been to Tahiti, but they've been somewhere. Everybody's had some trip they went on. But you know what? We got to shave your head in the fight for your life on our 20th wedding anniversary, not knowing whether it was life or death ahead of us. That's what we did. Who can take that away? I mean, what a great memory. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That
is a cherished.
How do you arrange that?
Right. That is a cherished moment in
What did you do
memory.
for your 20th anniversary? Well, I was shaved my wife's head in the middle of her fight for life at the Palimomi Hospital in Hawaii. Tahitian pearls and steak. But we also opened up our old box of letters that we had written for years before we got married.
Yeah. Oh, so many
I went through
letters.
some letters. I found the Dear John letter that you wrote me that you thought didn't exist, that you didn't ever write me.
That's not true.
That's what you said before we found it.
You always tell me I wrote you a Dear John letter.
And then we found it.
Well, that's
I was like,
true.
You're like, there's no Dear John. I was like, look, this is it right here. You're like, oh yeah, that was. Anyhow, we had that experience.
So they asked me to do the interview with the news for Palimomi to promote the new cancer wing. And I didn't realize that I was going to be interviewed by the main guy who does the morning news on TV. Yeah. And when I found that out, I was okay with it. Because, I was excited to talk about the experience, but, so they interviewed, we were on the morning news. I had somebody come interview me for, an article, but also for the publication for their fundraising. And so we were on brochures and mail-outs that our family, a picture of our whole family that they used to fundraise for the hospital, because Palimomi is a nonprofit hospital, so they depend on donations. So we were a part of that, and it's really fun because the kids, I think it was Delilah, she asked us if we were famous when we moved here. She asked us if we were famous.
That's right.
And I was like, why would you ask if we were famous? She goes, well, because when you Google our name, our family picture pops up, and there's like an article about us. And I was like, what? And so I went and I looked it up, and it's that
they're still
that
there.
article, and it's still there. And because of that, because you could find us on Google, Delilah thought that we were famous.
It's
I was like,
now.
Interesting. So that was really exciting. I also was interviewed by the
radio stations.
Well, I was interviewed by radio stations, but also the Hawaii Blood Bank.
It hit a lot of their marks. Here's an island state. You were military connected through the mission. Large family, all the kids. Blood cancer against all odds. The zero in on Delilah.
Yeah.
The spirit of going for it in life and living and the community. And I remember that was a big thing that they told back, the hospital told back to us. The uncalculable variable for healings, like we don't know what heals some things. It's always community. People that have this, connection to community for some reason.
System.
Yeah, they get healed.
Yeah, they heal
More likely
faster.
to heal. And, you got to share your story, broadly in other ways too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I got to share it at the Pearl Harbor. I also was able to share it at the Soldiers Chapel in Schofield. The one at Pearl Harbor was actually right after I'd gotten out of the hospital for my last chemo. I felt really nervous on that one because I hadn't really had time. I felt like I was in the middle of it to be able to express and share the story. I was like, well, but it was really good for me because I had to think through the parts and started to realize, when you put it all together, I was like, well, this is like actually really, really cool story to share with people. But I really enjoyed doing the one at Schofield Barracks at Soldiers Chapel because I really focused on the Romans verse. I was able to, there was enough time in between, I think, better put my thoughts together, but really incorporate those verses into the journey that I went on and basically talking about how you can believe and trust in God. Enjoyed that. I also got to share my story at a PWC retreat for military chapels. It's a women's group that they have, but I was able to share that at a retreat. That was really good too, to be able to share that with those ladies. I think that the reason why sharing like the interview and the speaking and the impact that not just me but our family had on this is it kind of goes back to what we're talking about rainbow level winning. I feel like, you go through something like this, you ask God for help, and I was in a process of trusting him in the whole process. But the other thing that happens is that he works outside of those things as well. Like, he doesn't just have the power to help you, but your whole situation is also impacting other people. And I feel like there was just so many layers to what was going on. I mean, there was me and my cancer, but there was mine and your relationship. There was ours and our family's relationship. There was us and our community's relationship. And, you can't orchestrate any of that. That is all God's doing when pieces connect and touch. And I have to say, being able to share my story and coming out of having gone through cancer, I think that this is fairly common, but you almost feel when you start feeling better. I wasn't afraid to die anymore. And I felt almost like invincible. And there were some things also that I kind of did because I felt like I had these new
Living muscles?
muscles that I had to exercise. And some of them were, I have never been a person that has been too afraid of like heights or scary things like that.
That's right. You jumped off of things.
Right. And I remember on, I think it was on Facebook, Robbie, who wrote the song, he put a shout out to anyone who wanted to go skydiving with him.
Yes. And no one responded.
But that was like seared in my brain. I remember looking at you and saying, Kevin, I think I want to go skydiving with Robbie. And you were like, what? And I was like, yeah. I said, I just feel like I should do it.
Yeah.
Like I felt compelled to do it. And I feel like that shout out was for me. And no one else responded, but I did. And so
and it got to be public too.
Yeah.
You got to, for everyone to say,
Yeah.
Robbie's looking for someone to go skydiving with him.
Yeah.
And silence. And then Casey, I'll go skydiving with you.
Yep. And so we coordinated this and we went to Skydive Hawaii, I think it's called. And him and I both jumped out of an airplane, and that was fun. That was a lot of fun. But I am so glad he did that shout out, because I was able to say yes to it and do it, because I don't know that I really would have thought of it.
Was it before that or afterwards that you jumped off South Point on the Big Island?
After.
Was it after?
Yeah, I think South Point was the first kind of scary thing that I did.
And you tied it to, victory. We need to jump from things.
Yeah.
South Point is a really high point on the south side of the Big Island. And if you Google it, you'll see a lot of people trying to work up enough courage to jump off of it, and then warnings to not jump off of it.
Yeah.
And so we went there, and you jumped off of
cliff.
Hawaii into the ocean.
Yeah, but I mean, I only did it because you did it. That's not true. I mean, I really wanted to.
It is true.
That is true.
But I only did it because you wouldn't do it.
Right. The way
I got to be a part of it.
Yes, you were my encouragement.
And I'm scared to death of heights.
Yes, I know. And then you did it, and I was like, oh my gosh, how could I just let him do that all by himself? So that was the push I needed to jump off the edge. I remember, though, after jumping off the cliff, we get into the water, and they have that rusty old rebar ladder that you climb back up. And I'm like, I did not think about how in the world do you get out of here. But luckily, God sent a little local kid.
He was
our angel. He's like, there's, follow me. So we followed him around to the rocks, and he showed us how to get out in a less terrifying way. That scared me more, actually. Climb back up.
Yeah. Not me. It was the jumping off. So my perspective was that you were there you were ready to go. You were on the edge, kind of leaning forward. A number of times you calculated you were going to do it. And then you decided, I'm not going to do it. And then we actually started heading back to the car.
Yeah.
And we were with some staff at the time. We were on a retreat to that island. And I just guys, I have to jump off the cliff.
Yeah.
And I did not want to jump off the cliff. And I knew that if I did it, then you were going to do it.
Yeah.
And that was the most important thing, is that Casey jumped off that cliff. So that was a proud moment for me, is be a part of your victory lapping.
Yeah. As we were walking away, I said, Kevin, I feel like I'm going to really regret that I didn't do it. And that's a lot of time in my process of figuring out if I want to do something or not. A lot of it is me imagining what I will be like when it's over. And sometimes if I feel like the skydiving thing, I felt like now that it had been said, it was out there. If I didn't do it, I would regret that I did it. And I didn't want to regret it. So it was the same with the jumping off the cliff.
Those were a part of your story. Those were a part of the beginning of the story and the middle of the story. The skydiving and the jumping off the cliff to exercise your muscles, the being open and sharing the witness of what you were going through. That is a part of your God relation the whole way through. And I think that is something a lot of folks don't realize, is that, you don't have this calling to be a witness for him. And sometimes something happens where that is suspended. Like, here's a tragedy, or here's something you got to fix.
Yeah.
So now God relation is suspended, and we're living secular life for a while so we can get back to the witness that we are. Everything counts. And all of that stuff is part of it. It does make me think of another verse that was very important to us early on. And I don't know if it came before your Romans 5 conviction or not. But it's about Moses wrestling with God about this mission that God is telling him to go on. And if you read in the first, I think it's like Exodus chapter 3, there's this whole discussion between God and Moses about he's going to send him to go do something that he doesn't think he can do. Mm-hmm. And Moses talks about his presence and, wait, who are you? What's your name? And that's where he gets his name, I am, and shares it with Israel and everything. But then jump to, I think it's chapter 33. And this is at a point where things have been gotten going. God has this journey that Moses is supposed to be in charge of and lead and to be a witness before all Israel. And Moses says to him, if you're, it's the whole discussion about God going with them and being a presence with him. He says, if your presence does not go with us, then do not send us. And I don't think he was saying to God, it doesn't sound like your presence going to go with us and you're just sending us out there. I don't think he was saying that, because the verses before are all about God sending his presence with them. It was about Moses wrestling with that reality and really wanting to make sure that that part was really going to be important. And it was going to happen, is that the presence of God was going to go, with him. And he says, if you don't go with us, then don't also send us. Do not make the one happen without the other one happening. And when it dawned on us what was happening, and we couldn't make it not be true. Mm-hmm. And we couldn't make it not happen. We realized we are going to go through something that you see in the movies and that you hear from afar. That's us now. And we're going into this. And we have 9 children. And we have ministry responsibility up the yin yang. We are thousands of miles away from our blood relatives. And we are being sent into something. There is something we are being sent into it. Mm-hmm. And I remember reading that verse, and we prayed it. We said, got it. We are being sent into this. Do not send us into this without your presence going with us. And I felt like we had a right from that Bible verse to demand it, mm-hmm. to demand it before God.
Yeah.
And I think he led us to it to cause us to demand it, so it's not us versus God. It is us really working this thing out. And every part of what we were going through was not about coming to peace with God or aligning ourselves to his will. That was already done. This was a project. This was a mission, and it was going to turn out. And even if it turned out to your death or other things, there was going to be product.
Yeah.
There was going to be victory and living and deliverance of things.
Yeah. I remember not too long into the journey, me being in the hospital and Polymomi coming, with a caseworker and talking to us about us joining a support group. And I remember they had it. I went to one
support
meeting
group
because I was in the hospital and it was meeting at the hospital. So the lady who was in charge of it, she came in, touched base with me, and she's like, if you'd like to go, you can. And so I went to a support group. And also we ended up, I don't know how, this was a little while later, we were eating out. We ended up talking to a couple who participated in
yes. and ask, what is it that you got from it?
Right,
Why a
'cause
support group?
we were wondering,
What
do we
is
need
it?
do we need a support group?
Why are we not in a support
Yeah,
group?
what is doing a support group all about? And I feel like what you just talked about, like the victory and making sure that God's presence goes with us, you know, I think that kind of lended to our conclusion that we came up with was that we didn't really need a support group. And not that people don't need to go to support groups, because I think, everybody's circumstance is different in the way that they deal with things, the way that they process. But I feel like that component especially was what we saw was that we had support.
We had a support group.
Yeah, we had a support group already. And that was you and me. It was our family.
It was the sharing and
It was the
opening
community.
it up.
It was the sharing, the not locking everything in and struggling by ourselves, but actually allowing for others to come in and help us. I feel like that was really, really huge when we, kind of came to the conclusion that we didn't really need to. Because, you think, oh, well, of course, you should do that. That would benefit you.
Yeah, it is good.
Yeah, and it's a good thing. But then you're like,
Yeah, I think it's important. I mean, I actually, in deciding to not join a support group, but exploring it and why, the idea of a support group actually was affirmed of its importance. Like, I can see people need to be able to process what is it that we're going through and to share it with folks who are ready to listen because they're going through it too. And so it's actually a very valuable thing. It's just in our particular case, all the elements of a support group we actually had that. We had it in a different form. It was built in to the whole of life.
I think for a little while, we actually talked about inviting people over to our own house and, have a communication with people and conversation.
It made you realize the advantage that you could turn tough things and tragedies into is a lot of people live isolated and then something comes and shakes their world and they're like, I can't just be an island with this thing. I've got to, and then you find a circle where you can open it up and you're like, oh, well, I guess one of the things that a tragedy and a hardship can do is begin to open you up to living in community with others for the very first time because you share a common struggle that you must overcome. And so you see the advantage of it.
A lot of the things and principles that we are learning, well, they didn't just affect our journey with cancer and our family and community, but there's also the ministry aspect of the lessons that we were learning. And I feel like you have some good insight as to how to bring that rainbow level winning into the ministry side of things that were going on, especially in particular things that kind of were happening in the ministry as this whole fight was going on.
Yeah, my thought is the capability that God gives. Your whole life is God's calling, and He is strong on behalf of you in all of it, and He gives you capability. What was interesting is during this time, there was something unique that was happening in one of our main military installations in the religious community. There was a chaplain that came in, 06, full-bird colonel, and he was known for, having a strong sense of leadership, telling people what to do and then backing it up with, the strength of his influence. At the same time, he really only trusted products and ministry that came from himself. He didn't trust anybody else or what was going on out there. And the reason is he was afraid of getting in trouble for other people's stuff.
Yeah.
But the practical effect during that time was that he shut down ministries left and right. Like ministries have been there going on, many years. And of course, we had a significant one there. And the thing that he was afraid of more than anything else was winning. He was afraid that if someone was winning or doing well or producing or productive, that they were also doing something that was going to set everyone up for a giant fall. And I mean, that just, why does somebody think like that? What is it that they know about themselves that no one else is aware of, that they are afraid of that thing? And he came in and he shut stuff down. And this is in the middle of, because of what's going on with you and us open up to everything, there was this spike of growth in our programs. He did things to shut stuff down. And I stood up to it during that time. Mm-hmm. While my wife is sick and fighting for her life, I did not choose my battles wisely.
You said yes to that battle as well.
I said, let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. What we see is that God is advancing things and growing things, and we are not afraid of winning and success and capability. A lot of good friends who are leaders of ministry, they saw their stuff get shut down. And his goal was kind of to shut everything down and to deep inspect it and to see if anyone was doing something secret and wrong, and then to bring it online under his name and his control. And I mean, it was a pathetic form of leadership.
It really was, because there was this feeling that things were about to explode. I mean, there in the other ministries in the chapel, the family nights were
throughout
huge,
the community,
the
non-chapel community,
there was
the schools, the commanders.
This anticipation that there was going to be this explosion of ministry that had not happened before, and then he just kills everything
except ours, because I took a strong stand against him. And I believe that, especially in ministry, if there are not some times where you are almost fired, then you are not doing it correctly.
Amen.
And boy, that high-ranking man who had command over the access, at least at his installation, or so he thought, had some yelling, threatening moments.
Yeah.
This thing is not going away. We're going to, and this is not, everything is not all underneath your authority. We have commanders here and generals who have kids and interests in the program. And I used that and I leveraged it. Mm-hmm. And while other programs had to close down for a time, that have been there for a long time, good ones, having done nothing wrong, ours continued to grow. And it was like, I felt, that's when I really started using the word stress test. Is God doing something? Has he provide some assets? Now comes opposition. Are you willing to stress test this thing? Let's see if this can break or not. Mm-hmm. We found it could not break. And by the way, I think that if you are operating with fear and caution, you are actually going to end up being on the side of the party which creates evil and violations of things. If you want to break the law, then by all means be afraid and act on the defense. If you want to be lawful and if you want, good things to abound, then be on the side of going for it. Mm-hmm. And people think the opposite, of that. But that was what made me think and tie this experience to our whole story, is when he left, then of course he kind of expressed a bitterness, towards to his successor, who was another 06, and became a very fierce advocate and supporter. But early on, he told me, he said, I heard that you kind of stood your ground where you shouldn't have. But knowing what Casey went through in 2015 and all that you were dealing with, it doesn't matter what you did, it's excusable. And he said that to me. And I thought, there are so many things wrong with that. Mm-hmm. Number one is, you want to look at the fruit. You want to look at the fruit and see who was on the right side of things. Mm-hmm. And I told him that too, straight up. And that's where he, learned who I was.
Yeah.
And then we gained respect for each other for it. But the other thing was this notion that if you see something going south, then you're going to default to thinking God's not in this, or we got to protect everything else from this. And it's like, how about if someone is closer to that top of the rainbow, which is immersed in heaven. Not everybody, you can respond by being a victim, by having a bad conscience, suspending the calling that God's given you, or you can look at someone like that and go, it is possible that they're open to what God is doing. And we might have more with this scenario from God than we have with our regular scenarios. In 2015, I remember, I don't know why, but as much weakness as we had going on, there were strengths.
Yeah.
That was the strongest year I can think of our lives. Was 2015, is that we were given strengths that you have to say yes to and you should roll with. I mean, are we not actually enlisted now? Are we not actually commissioned into something, amazing? Remember that you are close to God. Remember that right now you are close to God and he is close to you. Ask for the things right now that you have always wanted, because you have a better ear and a better intuition of the kingdom right now than ever before.
I think that it's like the opposite, like, that chaplain, things were starting to become successful and he was really terrified of success because he felt like a lot of people, especially in the military setting, if you get a positive light put on you, it's like it's exposing you to higher ups, either rejecting what you're doing, shutting it down, attacking.
And damn straight, let's roll.
So there's this element to things where you need to just keep the status quo. You don't want to let anything get too good. You just got to keep it status quo. And so what you do in that is you gatekeep success and you
success.
Tamp it down and you basically extinguish it for your own benefit. And I think the opposite was happening with us, is that we were in weakness. There was a victory. There was winning that was happening. And it wasn't just happening in a hospital room or in the Schmidt home. It was happening even in ministry. And you all like to use the phrase stress testing. And when, you feel like God is giving you something, empowering you, there is this thing called stress testing, is that you can test that a little bit. And I think one of the things that, you just grabbed hold of that, the winning, the success, that feeling of like, we were victorious, being victorious over things. In some respects, didn't even have anything to do with health, but also, personally and in ministry, and take that and see if that holds up when you come up against someone who is terrified.
Yeah. Who probably has some sort of thing that is making him not want to stress test everything.
Right.
And assumes that everyone else has it too. And nope, you're just the only one.
Yeah.
There's only 2 times that such a campaign to shut down effective ministry was at that level.
Yeah.
And it was with him and his fears and coming off as a strong leader, afraid of everything, afraid of success more than anything.
Yeah.
And the other was the shutdowns of COVID, which we fought also. But that was an interesting thing to happen at the same time as all of this other experience. And I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
I love it that everything shut down and we thrived and didn't in stress test. And honestly, I think because of our stands, it caused the other ministries to come back online. There was a lot of discussion about that, and other ministries came back online because we remained online.
Yeah.
And in fact grew through it. So what has this all been about?
So I feel like, we've always had this spirit of going for it, you and I. That is true in our relationship and how we came together and some of the moves that we've made. some of the directions that we've shifted to and going, which have been rewarded. But I think that this was the next level of that, because what it did is there was
Rainbow level, Chernobyl rainbow level.
Yes, there was something catastrophic that happened to us, to our family unit, the things that we hold dear, our family, our community. And the intention of that could have been to blow everything apart. And I feel like the lessons that we learned up till that point in going for it in trust, knowing that we could move in a direction and God might not speak to us at that moment, but he was going to show up. Like we always knew that God was going to show up. I feel like this thing was, for me personally, it was character building. It was like, okay, you now know where you stand with me. And this is God talking. And this is that you are on my side. Mm-hmm. And because now you know that, I'm going to unlock some secrets of the universe for you. And I feel like to everyone looking, it looked like a tragedy, but it was a door being unlocked.
Now that you know,
yes,
that I am with you, that I am on your side,
that we are not at war. There are amazing things. Yes, I'm going to have to build your character. Yes, there's endurance involved. Yes, but those are all things.
And the hope will not disappoint, and you will not be ashamed.
And you will not be ashamed.
This is the path you will go.
Yes, and there is nothing I am ashamed about when I look back on that, because it was all victory. It was all good. Even the bad parts were good. Even the wrestling that I had to do in my heart, but it got me to the point where my eyes were opened to a God who loves me, who cares for me. When you're on his side, when he's on your side, there's blessing. Yeah, it's settled.
That part's settled. Yes. Can we move on?
Yes, now we have moved
stuff.
On. Yeah.
The picture I get is November 2nd, watching the Royals win the World Series in the emergency room while your body is trying to die.
I felt so awful, but I was also so excited.
The TV was on in there, and
I had a high fever.
You're like, they're trying to keep you alive, and we're rooting for the Royals at the same time.
Yep. We got to watch them
win. Is that
win.
Okay if I'm watching the Royals, Casey, and reading cues from you that no, we have got to watch these Royals. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I got to bring this other thing up, is that as we started to get into it, and we prayed a lot, and we had devotions in the morning.
Yes, we did.
And one thing, I don't know, I can't remember the genesis of it, but it was like, why are we going through what's the big picture here? And for some reason, one thing that came up is that God was shaping us for us to become someone who shows and teaches what it means to serve God. And it was kind of like, how does this have to do with serving God? I mean, I get, the witness, but there seemed to be like this gem of truth that somehow needed to be uncovered about what it means to serve God. In the aftermath of it, the thing that I go to, especially in the book of Hebrews, and I think Paul addresses it in a number of places, is that a service to God really begins with a capability. It begins with a positive capacity and capability and strength and stature before him. And that is not how we think of service. A lot of times you think of service as something that you should do to put yourself in your place. Like it's a remedial thing, we've been in charge of ourselves for so long, now we need to learn to be servants. And it's kind of this lowering you to this lowly thing. And it's the opposite of what Jesus did when he said, you got this point that I'm your Lord and I'm your master? And they're like, yeah, we got it. He goes, now watch me serve. From the position of capacity and strength and lordship and mastery, he now can do the thing that he was called there to do. The idea of service has to come from a capability that God not only provides, but that you have come to accept. Him completing something that you've always in all your life have striven to have completed. It's like, when are you going to be done with that? When are you going to come to the point in Hebrews where it says entering your rest, entering his rest? When are you going to come to the place of getting that unsettled, bad conscience, striven, not yet thing settled? Because when you're done, we can put you to work. That's when we can put you to work. Putting you to work isn't like, let's put you to work because we got to put you in your place so that you can eventually get good with God. No. It's the real work is after it.
I feel like too that is so true, because you think about people who serve, and a lot of times it's so much out of the empty side of them instead of the full side of them.
Good way of putting it.
And so they think that there's this virtue in this emptying, and really you have to serve from the full side of you.
Otherwise, sad Christianity, as you say.
Yeah, sad Christianity. It becomes kind of like a twisted virtue system instead of, serving because you have the strength and capacity. And I do really feel like that whole episode for us, at least for me, showed the capacity at which that I had, even in my conceived weakness, what I felt was weakness, there was a capacity of strength in that to have victory in things, but also to be able to serve other people. And it, you look back on it now and you're like, that is weird. That's like not like normal. Like,
will we go
what
through
it's supposed
this
to be
with sad Christianity, or will we do rainbow level winning? Chernobyl rainbow
winning.
Chernobyl rainbows. Level winning.
Like acid rain rainbows.
Hey, I have another episode I think we should do.
Okay, what?
I think that when we finish with the MLK, next one or two or three episodes, and then kind of a resume catch up, that we should start season 3 off with a redo of Let's Just Go. I think we just tell the story again and maybe fill in some spots.
That'd be good. After doing the resume portion, then we can go and tell the story again.
Right. And I think we'll be able to tell it from the vantage of all these other stories that we've gotten to hash out between one another since then.
Like expound maybe
it's
on
the
some
name of
the...
our episode of our podcast.
I got it. Okay. So just to kind of expound on the okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if it flops, and if it flops, and if it plops, if it poops, and if it poops, then we'll scrap it and we'll have a different, episode one.
If it poops.
All right. Like Chernobyl does. All right. Well, did we do it?
What? What does Chernobyl?
Well,
Chernobyl?
I've been teaching you this whole time what Chernobyl does. I'm just teasing.
Okay.
Chernobyl. Sorry, I've been watching a lot of episodes on Chernobyl.
It's
lately.
Interesting how you have these themes of life depending on different
Chernobyl
things you're
rainbows.
reading or documentaries or talks with the kids. You have these themes.
It's fascinating. It's like, did you know that we are watering and cooling down a core that doesn't exist because it exploded. It is straight on radiation. Rainbows on your skin. Yeah.
Ugh.
Okay. Did we do it, Kate?
We did it.
All right.
We digress, but we did do it.
Peace out. Catch you next time.
Bye.